Hello, I'm Abu, and I live in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York City. And this spring 2025, I will be pursuing a co-home ownership strategy. The most cost-effective way to do that is to utilize a loan product that is for 1 to 4 family unit that needs substantial rehabilitation to get those repairs done, and then all of the owners move in as roommates so that the other units can be rented out. Given the conditions of the current market and the amount of ongoing work that needs to happen, I'm sure it's understandable why partnership is the best way to go about this. Co-ownership is when two or more people or entities come together to each have a share of the asset. In this case, the grouping will come together to combine resources and efforts to purchase, so that's down payment, some towards closing costs, and ongoing income to show the bank, rehabilitate, manage, and maintain the property. The law largely protects spouses, so for this purpose, a married couple counts as one entity. But of course, they can pursue having additional buyers. Managing the property becomes a bigger task when the building is also occupied by tenants, which is often necessary or advantageous in urban areas, including our target neighborhoods. Houses, buildings up to 4 units get the same preferable loan terms that single-family houses get, so the line between buying a home and buying an investment property gets blurred, with the result being additional long-term wealth. Many parts of New York City, especially the areas I am most expert with, are dominated by small multifamily houses like brownstones and townhouses, along with larger apartment buildings. Primary residence mortgage accommodates this so-called house hacking by default, a trendy term somebody coined because they felt this was a way for owners to have their housing expenses covered by having tenants. It's the same thing as somebody saying to quote, buy a duplex to help pay the mortgage. There are some tax benefits as well. However, home values reflect this added income. In these types of buildings, brownstones and townhouses, tenants are in the same building but have full, separate apartments, that is, the privacy of their own kitchen, bathrooms, and mailboxes. Sometimes utilities are shared, especially heat and hot water in older buildings. Here are the steps that we will be doing to have a successful 2025 home ownership effort. First, teams will need to be assembled based on skill sets and other relevant factors. Of course, I will be on one of these teams, but with the scale of the campaign, I expect that several others will be matched. Next, buyers will need to understand and agree on their roles and get bank pre-approvals. That will then make it simpler to search for property. For my strategies and goals, a HUD consultant will be needed. Once the property is acquired, the rehab can begin, and then move in, and once ready, place tenants, and then based on the stabilized asset, cash out refinance to buy another property and keep the cycle going. For those who are interested, check out my website and fill out the detailed contact form on abubuild/househack 2025. It's at the end of the article. That is abubuild.com/HOUSEHACK 2025. If you prefer to contact me by email for this project, that is abu@abubuild.com, abu@abubuild.com. My temporary number for this project is 929-483-3095. Before purchase, of course, we have to assemble teams. That considers things like skill sets, financials, goals, lifestyle, and any other relevant factors. We do have to consider immigration status, especially the loan that I'm looking at. They're looking for long-term stability, and they have their criteria as to which statuses count for that. My goal is to be as inclusive as possible, so there's other products available for international folks as well that we can look at. Then get the pre-approval from the bank, and come up with some basic legal framework between all of the partners. I don't like to get too caught up in that because people like to think about the unlikely what ifs or the likely what ifs to the point where they get paralyzed and don't do it. I call that protecting imaginary assets. With that pre-approval, it's much easier to find a property, and then there needs to be several approvals of the property. For example, usually the inspection and the appraisal. And for what I'm particularly looking at, there's also going to be a HUD consultant needed that will take us through the process. Once the property is purchased, there's several more steps. There's the rehabilitation, moving in and renting out the other units. So what that has done is added to the housing stock. More individuals and families have a nice place to live, and increase the property value, increase the wealth. And so with that, we can refinance with the bank with two goals. One, to get better terms on the loan for the long term, and two, get cash out to repeat the process. And again, here's where that contact form is. abubuild.com/househack2025. At the bottom of the page, there's a link, and when you click that, it's going to ask you for all of your basic information and basic information that'll help in terms of the matchings, like I said. Subscribe to this channel for more information about real estate projects that I'll be working on in the future. I have another channel, Abu NYC, and that's where I talk about topics semi-related to real estate in New York City, or more accurately, if I feel like talking about it, I'm gonna rant about it.